Hello, good evening, everyone. On behalf of all the organizers of this special webinar, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you. Nature as we unfold it is a first of its type of webinar organized by the fellow scholars of Bose Institute, Kolkata, where we bring together various scientific subjects emerging from various research fields. We appreciate you taking time off your busy schedules to join us today. We hope you will find the program we have lined up for you to be fruitful and engaging. For the third lecture in the series, we have with us Dr. Abhijit Chatterjee, who is currently an associate professor at Bose Institute, Kolkata. Dr. Chatterjee completed his graduation and master's in chemistry from Calcutta University. He did his PhD on Sundarban Mangrove forest, aerosol and climate interaction from the University of Calcutta. He did his postdoctoral research on aerosol-rain interaction from National Atmospheric Research Laboratory at Gardanki in the year 2009 and 2010. He joined Bose Institute as faculty fellow in the year 2010. He became assistant professor in the year 2012 and associate professor in the year 2018. Now speaking about his research interests, which is really interesting. It first includes chemistry of atmospheric aerosols, trace gases, and greenhouse gases. Second, aerosols cloud-rain interaction. Third, biosphere atmospheric exchange of greenhouse gases. And fourth, Himalayan climate change. So these are his research interests. I will now take the opportunity to welcome our speaker once again and hand over the microphone to him. Sir, you may please start now, and thank you very much for giving your precious time to us. So uh,
Okay, thank you, Shreya.
yes,
Am I audible?
yes, sir, you are
Okay,
audible.
okay. Thank you very much, and thanks to all the students and scholars uh, for inviting me and letting me to deliver a talk today. And on behalf of the physics group of Bosch Institute, I also welcome other faculties and Professor Bandhavadhyay, our director, is there. So let me start with my presentation. So let me share my screen first. Is it okay? Is it visible?
Not yet.
Okay,
We
just a
can see
second.
your
Yeah.
video this moment. Yes, yes, your screen is visible now.
Yes,
Okay.
now
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And one more request to the audience, if you have any question, you can raise your hand by clicking on the raise your hand icon at the left bottom pane. And we would also prefer that you ask the question at the end of the talks to avoid any disturbance during the talk. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And okay, so let me start my talk, which is based on the Sundarban Mangrove ecosystem, the savior of Kolkata from polluted smoke transported from other regions. So let me first start with a very brief introduction, although it's well known to all of you. What do you understand by polluted smoke? It's nothing but the composition of both the gaseous pollutants and the particulate matters or the solid particles suspended in the atmosphere. Gaseous pollutants means, as you all know, the oxides of nitrogen like nitric oxide, nitrogen dioxide, oxides of sulfur like sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, ozone, etc. And the solid particulate matters or pollutants, what we usually call aerosols. Okay, so this may be uh, unknown term or very little known to some of you. So it's nothing but a very tiny, very small particulate matters which suspended in the atmosphere. We call it aerosols. And the size of these aerosols may vary from a few nanometers, I mean the diameter, few nanometers to several micrometers. Usually, around up to 40 or 50 microns of diameter, these aerosols can get suspended in the atmosphere, and beyond that, they get deposited on the surface of the earth. Okay. So they have different chemical compositions, and these chemical compositions are actually dependent on their emission sources, where from they are getting generated and coming out into the atmosphere. So these are very well known uh, sources of air pollutions, rather aerosols, wildfire or forest burning, dust, storm, sea salt aerosols emissions by the breaking of the bubbles and the waves of the sea, industrial emissions, vehicular emissions, and also the crop residue burning or the biomass burning. So these are the very well known and common sources of aerosols and other atmospheric pollutants. So what is the importance of aerosol in why do we need to study all these aerosols? So simply because it affects human health and it affects our climate. Okay, so talking about the health effect of aerosols, uh, I think you are already known to this term, right? In PM10 and PM2.5, you can see in newspapers, you can in various display boards in the on the roads. So PM10 is nothing but PM stands for particulate matter, and 10 means the diameter of aerosols which is less than 10 microns or 10 micrometers. So the aerosol particulate matter which are less than 10 micrometer in size, they actually respirable in nature. That means we inhale them. Okay. And above 10 micrometer of diameter, they do not goes into our, the body. Okay. So between 10 and 2.5 micrometer is called the coarse mode aerosol or the larger aerosol. When we inhale them, they remain within the upper part of the windpipe. It's called pharynx or larynx, etc. Okay, and if we go below 2.5 micrometer, very finer particles, ultra fine particles, and as they goes below 2.5 micron, as their size decreases, their adverse effect on the human health that increases because it can affect several smaller and finer parts of the cardiovascular system. Okay, now talking about the aerosol impacts on climate. So there are two types of effect of aerosol on the climate. One is direct effect, another one is indirect effect. What do we mean by direct effect? Some aerosols, rather most of the aerosols, they scatter the solar radiation. Okay, they reflect or refraction. So because of this reflection and refraction of the solar radiation by the aerosol particles, the atmosphere get cooled because the atmosphere do not get warm, obviously. So these type of aerosols are responsible for the cooling of the atmosphere. But some other aerosols are there, like soot particles, or simply black carbon, which is black in nature, black in color, and absorbing in nature. So they absorb all the solar radiation falling on it. So obviously they warms the atmosphere because they trap the heat within the atmosphere. Okay, like black carbon or soot particles. The major sources are like any type of burning, fossil fuel burning like vehicular emissions or industrial emissions, diesel, petrol, or any biomass burning or wood burning. Okay, talking about the indirect effect. Okay? If the aerosol particles, after getting generated from various sources, if somehow they get injected into the cloud, within the cloud, what happens? If they are hygroscopic in nature or water soluble in nature, they try to share the water of the clouds or the water, cloud water. Okay, so when the water of the clouds gets shared between the aerosol particles, what happens? The net water or the size of the cloud droplet that decreases. So how it affects? It doesn't create any rain because the size of the cloud droplets, they do not get converted into the raindrops. Okay, and more aerosol particles within the cloud. That means they enhances the lifetime of the cloud or the reflectance of the cloud. So in turn, it cools the atmosphere. Now, for example, if soot kind of particle or black carbon, if they somehow get injected into the cloud, what happens? It will, by its own nature, by its own instinct, it will absorb the radiation even sitting within the cloud. So what happens? It will warms the atmosphere of the cloud, and because of this, the water of the cloud gets evaporated. So sometimes you can see the clouds, but it doesn't rain. This phenomenon is called the cloud burning. Okay, it is just due to the somehow if some soot particle or absorbing particles or aerosols they get injected into the cloud. This takes place. It's called cloud burning. Okay, so amongst the various types of aerosols, the two most abundant aerosols are, one of them is sea salt aerosols. How these aerosols are generated? By the breaking of the waves, mainly at the coastal region. And this image which you are seeing on the screen is the global mass flux of sea salt aerosols. How much gram or in gram, how much sea salt aerosol are getting produced per unit area in meter square, per unit time, or per year. Okay, so you can see the contour diagram. Okay, so this is the most abundant types of aerosols in a global scale. Next one is biomass burning or wildfire smoke or aerosols. Similarly, this is also a flux in terms of gram of carbon per meter square per year. Okay. So these two types of aerosols, sea salt aerosols, which are natural aerosols, and the biomass burning or wildfire aerosols, which are anthropogenic or man-made aerosols, these two types of aerosols on a global scale are the most abundant aerosols in the atmosphere. So this is all about a very brief idea about the aerosols. Now come to the point or the main theme of my talk today. It's about Sundarban Mangrove ecosystem. I'm not going in detail about the geographical positions of the Sundarban Mangrove because it's well known to all of you. And you also know that is the largest mangrove, single mangrove ecosystem in the world. Okay, so talking about the ecological importance, morphological importance, or geological importance, I am going to, okay, these are some common mangrove species which are very rare and only available in the mangrove, Sundarban mangrove system and not in any other mangrove system in the across the world. Okay, and these are various types of biosphere in Sundarban, both in aquatic and the benthic region. Benthic means at the bottom of the sea. These are different types of forest ecosystems. So what I want to say is that how much uh, rich in ecology, ecologically rich Sundarban is, and how much rich in biodiversity. Okay, so I'm going to introduce a very new term which is called blue carbon. Actually, this term has been introduced in the scientific community a few years back. So, blue carbon, of course, is not blue in color. It actually represents the carbon which is associated with the aquatic or marine ecosystem. That's why it's called blue carbon. So what does it mean? What is blue carbon? It is nothing but it refers to, by definition, the carbon dioxide removed from atmosphere and stored as organic carbon by the living marine organism in the ocean or coastal ecosystems. So whatever the marine organisms are there, whether it's the plants or any phytoplankton or zooplankton plants or animals or whatever, so they absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and store them as organic carbon. Okay, carbon dioxide is an inorganic carbon compound. So organic carbon within the sediment or within the soil, and as and such organisms or such carbons are actually make the geology or the morphology of the Sundarban ecosystem is very rich in organic carbon. Okay, So at the United Nations of Climate Change Conference in 2009 in Copenhagen, uh, first blue carbon was declared and introduced to the scientific community. Okay, and after that, the studies was started conducting and various reports were published jointly by the United Nations Environmental Program and the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organizations and also with UNESCO. Okay, so what is the importance of blue carbon? It actually provides the energy to marine life or marine organism. Okay, so as you can see that this carbon dioxide um, from the atmosphere, they get absorbed by the mangrove ecosystems, okay, or any phytoplankton within the within the at the bottom of the sea or something of this at the coastal region. So they get absorbed by the mangrove systems and they get stored as organic carbon within the sediment and within the soil, okay, and that is how the entire ecosystem or the geology or the soil of the Sundarban gets reached with organic carbon. Okay? So this is called the blue carbon. So what is the importance? It has been established by various studies very recently that 1 acre of mangroves, 1 acre of mangrove cover, they can absorb 1450 pounds of carbon. Now you can ask me what is the importance of these numbers, 1450 pounds of carbon. So it has been shown that if a car runs for around 7,560 miles, the amount of carbon it will produce into the atmosphere, the same amount of carbon 1 acre of mangrove cover has the potential to absorb it. Okay. So this is the potential of the mangrove ecosystem. This is the importance of the mangrove ecosystem. They can absorb, they have the potential to absorb the anthropogenic carbon, mainly the carbon oxide, carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. One of them, as you know, is a major and important greenhouse gases. So mangrove has this kind of potential. Okay. And in Paris Agreement, you all know it was happening in 2016. And whatever the countries joined there, the 20% of the countries they pledged to use blue carbon, means to restore blue carbon, not to disturb that particular ecosystem which is rich in blue carbon in nationally determined contributions. And India is one of them. Why? Because it has a huge and extensive coastline, as you all know. Okay. Okay, so amongst the various types of ecosystem, forest ecosystem, uh, can you see the cursor moving? Is it okay, visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, like amongst the boreal forest or temperate forest or tropical forest, mangrove is such kind of forest which can absorb a huge amount of carbon below their ground. Okay. So these are the differences between the different types of forests with the mangrove. And a very recent paper which was published in Nature Geoscience that mangroves is the most carbon-rich forest in the tropical region, mainly in India and mainly in Sundarban. Okay? And it has been shown by some recent studies that the soil which is rich in blue carbon or high amount of organic carbon, the mangroves or the plants, they have the capability to act as the sink of other pollutants, gaseous pollutants like oxides of nitrogen or NOx, like NO or NO2, and also the ammonia. Okay, and it has been seen that 36 to 65 megagram of carbon per hectare in such kind of plants, the carbon gets stored, and almost double of organic carbon gets stored in the soil, within the soil, and not within the body of the plants or in the stem. around 70 to 86, 68 to 86 megagram of carbon per hectare. So this is the importance of blue carbon, and the soil which is rich in blue carbon, they also acts as the sink of other gaseous pollutants from the atmosphere. Okay. So a very recent study which was conducted by our group. Uh, we all know about the Kolkata thermal power station, right? So we had conducted a study for the emission of carbon dioxide from the Kolkata thermal power station, the emission flux, and it was measured of about 15 milligram of carbon dioxide per meter square per second. This is the emission flux of carbon dioxide from the chimneys of Kolkata thermal power station. Okay. At the same time, and at the same period, mangrove cover over Sundarban has the ability to absorb of carbon dioxide. That flux is 12 milligram of carbon dioxide per meter square per second, more than 80% of what Kolkata thermal power stations are emitting into the atmosphere. And when the based on the weather conditions and the meteorological condition and the direction of the wind, so what we have shown that more than 75 to 80% of carbon dioxide which are getting emitted from the thermal power station of Kolkata, they when they are reaching uh, by the favorable winds over the Sundarban, the mangrove cover has the ability to absorb more than 75 to 80% of that particular carbon dioxide. So, several isotope studies can differentiate the sources of carbon dioxide, whether it is coming from the thermal power stations or not. Okay, so I am not going in detail of this particular study. So, what I mean to say is that the carbon sequestration or the absorption rate of Sundarban is much faster than Amazon rainforest. And what we have calculated that around 4,333 kilometers square of area, this much of mangrove cover is needed if we want to sequester all of carbon dioxide which are emitted from Kolkata thermal power plant. So that means whatever the mangrove cover is still there right at this moment, 1.5% of that particular area needs to be increased. So here lies the importance of plantation of mangrove, enhancing the mangrove cover for the sake of ourselves. Okay, so Sundarban part is over. You have got the idea about the Sundarban, their ecological importance and their potential. Now I'm coming to the second part of my talk, that is the polluted atmosphere or polluted smoke coming from other regions. So as we all know, it's a very well-known phenomena in recent years that the biomass burning, as you can see the red dots, these are the fire spots or open burning region retrieved from the satellites. Okay. So in Punjab and Haryana, they the crop residue burning, agricultural waste burning is a common practice during the post monsoon or early winter. And we all know, based on the weather conditions and the direction of the wind, strong westerly wind, how this crop residue burning over Punjab and Haryana, it affects the air quality of Delhi. So it's a problem of every year. It's a constant. Okay. So how the Punjab and Haryana smoke of agricultural waste burning affecting Delhi. Delhi becomes hazy or smoky. Many people are suffering from all this. So it's a common practice and common phenomena in every winter. Okay. But one thing is getting under or rather overlooked or underestimated, or the studies are not going on properly. That is, Kolkata is in the similar fashion is also experiencing the same problem. The transport of biomass burning plume from Eastern Ghat region during the early summer. Delhi faces the problem during the early winter, whereas Kolkata faces the problem during the early summer when the biomass burning plume from Eastern Ghat They get transported to the Kolkata via Sundarban. It first hits the Sundarban and then moves forward towards north, further north, and reaches Kolkata. Okay. Now, where these biomass burning over Eastern Ghat is coming from? What is this all about? This over this Eastern Ghat biomass burning? It's nothing but it's called the shifting cultivation. Shifting cultivation is a very common practice by the tribal and people and the farmers of Eastern Ghat region. Okay, so what they do nothing but this first select a site of the forest along the slope of the hill of the Eastern Ghat. They cut the forest or slash the forest. Okay, then they burn the entire forest. Okay, and they wait for some days and they grow crops. Okay, over there, and after growing crops, they usually grow crops twice a year. So during the first phase, they grow crops which needs higher nutrient from the soil. And in the second phase, they grow crops which needs a very less amount of nutrient from the soil. Okay, and they abandon or reject the place and go for some new sites. That is how they shift their cultivational sites. They shift their sites for the cultivation, and that is how the name comes shifting cultivation. Okay, so among these processes, among these all these steps, the burning process that actually occurs during the early summer, during the month of March and April. Okay, and that particular smoke is a huge and a massive biomass burning plume, which actually, because of the west southerly wind flow from the eastern Ghat, it reaches or hits Sundarban and then reaches Kolkata. Okay, so these are the actual Eastern Ghat region, geographical position of Eastern Ghats. You can see most of the part of Orissa, Andhra, um, Tamil Nadu, and some part of Karnataka and Telangana is also there. So most of the tribal people and the farmers, they practice this shifting cultivation every year. So this is an image captured by Dr. D. Fuller, who is an atmospheric scientist, in March 7, 2018 in Simlipal Hills of northern Orissa, as a photo of this burning during the month of March. So what are the pollutants gets emitted from this biomass burning? Okay. Mostly the oxides of sulfur and nitrogen, sulfur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide, and also the very harmful acidic vapors, sulfuric acid and nitric acid, H2SO4 and HNO3. Along with these acids, inorganic acids, some volatile organic compounds, VOCs, and polynuclear aromatic hydrocarbons, PAH, and of course, black carbon or soot particles. So these are the major pollutants which are emitted into the atmosphere because of this burning, and they reach Sundarban and Kolkata during early summer almost in every year. But this phenomenon gets overlooked. Very fewer studies are being conducted. However, one of them is our group, which have addressed this particular issue. So these are, I'm not going in technical detail. These are some satellites and satellite-based some instruments, maybe radiometer or LiDAR or some other detector, passive or active, which are used for the atmospheric observations. Amongst them, this Calypso is a kind of LiDAR, light detection and ranging, which actually sends some light laser in a particular wavelength and measure the scattered light. And that is how this particular data from Calypso is actually used for studying the vertical profile along the height from the ground, vertical profile of the types of aerosols. Okay, what type of aerosols, whether it is sea salt or some black carbon or some other smoke present, and at what altitude from the ground. Okay, so One of my PhD students has recently published a paper based on these Eastern Ghat biomass burning, how they affected Sundarban and Kolkata. So these thread-like lines like blue, green, and some pink lines are there. These are air mass trajectories, the wind trajectories. They are originating at the Bay of Bengal, okay, and they are flowing. These winds are flowing along the Eastern Ghat or the coastal region, and they are reaching Sundarban and Kolkata. And the upper panel shows the trajectories. These red dots are the fire spot regions along the Eastern Ghat and also on other regions during the month of March and April. And the lower one is for the month of May, which is when the no fire episodes is there mostly. And you can see that the strong and these particular trajectories were retrieved from the trajectory model called high split hybrid single particle Lagrangian integrated trajectory. So I'm not going in detail. So what I want to say that the strong southern winds that pass over the Eastern Ghat biomass burning region and arrive at Sundarban and Kolkata during March and the first half of April. Okay, and the direction of winds they do not change during the month of May, but passes over the very less polluted regions during the second half of April and the month of May. Okay, you need not to understand every detail of this particular figure. This is nothing but the x-axis is the size in logarithmic scale of the aerosol, and the y-axis is the concentrations of aerosol. Is a concentration and size or mass and size distribution of aerosol between and the comparison between the fire episode when the Eastern Ghat biomass burning is in the peak and some normal period, the red one. You can see that over Kolkata, how much aerosol of ultrafine aerosol gets enhanced during these Eastern Ghat biomass burning compared to the normal period. Now you can say then what is the role of Sundarban here? The role of Sundarban lies that if Sundarban wouldn't be there, these aerosols over Kolkata during Eastern Ghat region would be some 100 or 200 times higher than the normal period. Okay, so what the roles actually Sundarban plays here? Okay, these are some satellite data retrieved from Calypso, as I was discussing, that the vertical profile of the aerosols. We actually look into the type of aerosols. Brown color represents some polluted smoke or something, some color code is there, and y-axis is the altitude from the ground. So from the ground to around 4 kilometers, polluted smoke was found over Kolkata, and that is because of the transport of the pollution plume from Eastern Ghat region. Okay? So, how sea salt aerosols, which are getting generated at the coast of Bay of Bengal in Sundarban, react with the polluted acids which are coming from the Eastern Ghat region. Okay, so sea salt is normally the sodium chloride. Okay. So when these are reacting with the acids, polluted acids like HA means HNO3 or H2SO4, okay. So when they are reacting with the polluted acids coming from the Eastern Ghat region, what happens? They that particular acids replace the chloride from the sodium chloride molecules, and this is called the chloride depletion. Okay, so based on the degree of chloride depletion, how much chloride gets depleted from sodium chloride molecule by the chemical analysis of aerosols, we can talk about how much sea salt aerosols got interacted with the polluted acids coming from other regions. Okay, so for example, NaCl plus HNO3 reacts with each other and form NaNO3 and HCl. And this HCl gets evolved as a gaseous species. Okay. So what happened in a pure atmosphere, pristine, marine, clean atmosphere? 100% of sodium chloride is there, or the major composition of the sea salt aerosol at the coast of Bay of Bengal over Sundarban. But when polluted acids are coming from the eastern Ghat, when they are reacted with sodium chloride particles or molecules or aerosols, only 15 to 20% of sodium chloride remain in the atmosphere, and most of the sodium chloride gets transformed into some other compounds based on the acids they are interacting with. For example, what happens? Smaller sea salt aerosol particles, which are normally in 2 to 4 micrometer in diameter, when they react with HNO3 or H2SO4 and they form NaNO3 and Na2SO4, they become larger and they become 15 micrometer more or less or more than that in diameter. And they are so hygroscopic, they collide with each other, and because of the hygroscopic growth, they get much larger in size and they get deposited in the atmosphere, in the surface of the Sundarban. So that is how when polluted acid is coming from the other regions, they are reacting with the sea salt aerosols over Sundarban, and they are getting converted into some other compounds and they get deposited on the surface of Sundarban. So they are being unable to proceed further towards Kolkata. Okay. So these are some scanning electrons microscopic image of some fresh or pure sea salt particles or aerosols when they partially reacted with some other polluted acids, and when they fully reacted with other acids and they form sodium nitrate and sodium sulfate, and through these scanning electron microscopic image or this image analysis, we this is the best way to uh, to study the changes of the sodium chloride or whether the sea salt aerosols reacted with the polluted acids or not. So when pure sea salt aerosols react with the acids, the shape and the structure of sea salt aerosols they change significantly, and their physical properties of sea salt aerosols like solubility, hygroscopicity, their texture, they also change, and they lose their potential to act as cloud condensation nuclei. So this is the term, the very important part of the atmosphere, cloud condensation nuclei. So what is CCN? This is nothing but and simply an aerosol particles which are soluble in nature in water. They are hygroscopic in nature, and when they provide the surface for the water vapor, so that these water vapors get condensed on the surface of the aerosol particle, and they form the cloud droplet. And when the cloud droplet they coalesce or they condense with each other, they form the bigger cloud droplet, and finally they convert into the raindrops, and that is how it rains. So CCN is nothing but the same aerosol particle which are hygroscopic in nature, and the most uh, the potential CCN types of aerosol is sodium chloride aerosols or NaCl. So when Sundarban sodium chloride aerosols or sea salt aerosols over Sundarban gets reacted with polluted transported acids, and their texture and physical properties get changed, what could be the effect on the climate? So when sea salt aerosols react with the moistures, simply NaCl and water, so they form the larger cloud droplets but smaller in number, so that the larger cloud droplets can easily convert it into the raindrops, and so that the clouds becomes the rain clouds or it rains. But when sea salt aerosols get mixed with anthropogenic aerosols like ammonium sulfate, nitrate, or sulfur dioxide, or any polluted, the pollutants, particulate or gaseous, then they form a the very small but larger in size in numbers within the clouds or the cloud droplets. And for the same reason as I discussed, they try to share the water of the cloud, and that is how the cloud gets the less amount of water to get converted into the rainfall. And these kind of clouds do not rain. So that is how if sodium chloride structure or their physical and chemical properties get affected by the pollutants transported from other regions, it affects the climate. Okay, so there are high amount of organic matter, other organic species which are emitted from the mangrove itself. Various types of organic matters. terpenoids, alkaloids, various volatile organic compounds, and several other organic matters. So when they are emitted into the atmosphere, and when high amount of, for example, ultrafine sulfate, anthropogenic sulfate, is coming from Eastern Ghat biomass burning region, they react to each other and they physically react, not chemically. And what happens? The sulfate, which is coming from the Eastern Ghat region, they get coated by those organic matter. Okay, and because of this coating, the finer sulfate get larger in size and they get deposited on the surface of the mangrove, and that is how they become unable to proceed further again towards Kolkata. Okay. Similarly, when ultrafine soot particles are coming from the Eastern Ghat regions, they interact with the organic matter coming out from the mangrove itself. And the same, the soot particles or the black carbon particles also get coated by the organic matter. Okay, as you can see, the soot particles remains in the core, and they are surrounded by the some organic coating. Okay, and the finer soot particles, ultrafine soot particles, gets larger in size because of this coating, and they get deposited on the surface of the mangrove. Okay, but there is a problem. What's the problem? Problem is, for example, this is a soot particle. It is absorbing sunlight. It warms the atmosphere because it absorbs all the lights falling on it. But when a soot gets covered with the organic matter, okay, and when the sunlight is falling on the surface of the organic matter, the outer shell, what happens? Because of the inner core of the soot particles, all the lights gets concentrated towards the center of this particular circle. Okay, so this is called the lensing effect. And because of this lensing effect, what happens? These coated soot particles warms more the atmosphere more than a single standalone soot particle. Okay, so when soot particle gets coated with the organic matter, they not only deposited on the surface of the mangrove, they do not get allowed to proceed further towards Kolkata. That's true. That's an advantage. That's a good news. But the bad news is that they, before the deposition on the earth surface, they also traps the heat more than a single soot particle, uncoated soot particle, and they warms the atmosphere to larger extent than a single soot particles could do. Okay, so that's the effect of climate. For example, uh, say there are clouds cover over a Sundarban mangrove, okay, at a height of 1 kilometer or 2 kilometer, whatever. Okay, so when these Eastern Ghat biomass burning plumes are there, and which is coming from the Eastern Ghat region from south, so what happens? All those pollutants get trapped or scavenged by that particular clouds cover over the Sundarban. Okay, so these cloud droplets scavenge most of these metals, fly ash species, sulfur compounds, soot particles, dust particles. Okay, and these are some transmission electron microscopic images for the cloud particles. How the cloud particles capture all these pollutants coming from the other regions, and what happens if black carbon is there, which I was discussing, it will absorb more heat, and the water of the clouds get evaporated, the cloud will burn off, the cloud will not be able to rain. Okay, so that is how the entire ecosystem of Sundarban mangrove ecosystem gets affected badly because of this transported plume from the other regions, and saves Kolkata by not allowing all these species to move further towards Kolkata. Okay, so mostly the sulfur and nitrogen compounds, I mean the sulfuric acid or nitric acid, when they get deposited on the surface of the mangrove cover, they changes the biogeochemical cycle, the normal, usual biogeochemical cycle of Sundarban mangrove ecosystem. Okay, when the soot particle gets coated and deposited on the mangrove cover, they also affect the plant's primary production, means the photosynthesis, production of food, the usual activities. Okay, and it has been seen that an increase in soot particle by 100 nanogram per meter cube of air, per unit volume of air, that is A 5% increase than the normal atmospheric concentration of soot particles, only 5% increase in soot particles, the rate of carbon dioxide sequestration, absorption by the plants, that decreases by around 20%. So you can understand, you can realize what are the adverse effects of these pollutants coming from other regions on the biogeochemistry and the entire ecosystem of Sundarban. So we have recently published a paper. One of my PhD student Abhinandan Ghosh is one of the thesis work. We have identified for the first time, not only in India but in the uh, global context, the exact reaction mechanism, what is happening in the atmosphere, how the sea salt particles, through which mechanisms, reaction mechanisms are reacting with the polluted acids and other species coming from the Eastern Ghat region. And it has been published in a very reputed journal, Chemosphere, and it has also come into some regional and some national news. Um, okay. So finally, what we need to do then, we should take steps towards the conservation of Sundarban ecosystem. Okay, what could be those steps? First of all, we should conduct some awareness program. A serious effort needs to be initiated, right, to make the people aware on environmental protection, conservation of biodiversity, okay, and we should make them understood that how inappropriate behavior towards the natural resources could cause ecological imbalance. Okay? But parallelly, we should also think of alternate resources of livelihood, because the entire community of Sundarbans, they depend on the mangrove because of their domestic fuel. So we should think of this. Okay, we should go for more plantation of mangroves. We should encourage the backyard farming instead of farming at the salinated island, because farming at salinated island, use of salinated islands or salinated lands, that actually make the community of Sundarbans more vulnerable, because all we know, there is always a human and animal conflict in Sundarban areas. Okay, so we should more encourage on the backyard farming so that the farmers can use their own residential places. And of course, we should be strict enough. Government should be strict enough for allowing the tourists for the tourist activities. And because you can see, but I mean, you cannot imagine what the tourists do over there. Okay, so there should be a strict guideline for the tourists. There should be uh, uh, restrictions, strict restrictions that should be issued by the government by order, that plastic cannot be entered into the Sundarban mangrove ecosystem by the tourists. That should be banned strictly. And above all, I would want to say one thing, that you, the students, and the young generations, and rather all of us, should do something by our own, as per our capacities, to get involved ourselves to clean the Sundarban ecosystem. For example, Department of Environmental Science in Independent University of Bangladesh, on a regular basis, they conduct tours to the Sundarban forest. They clean the Sundarbans by picking up all these trashes and the plastics and everything. They bring to their lab. They hand over all these things to the recycling plants and all these things. So they are quite involved. But seriously, such efforts are very rare from the Indian context, at least from Kolkata. Okay. Okay, but at the same time, we should take steps towards the crop residue management. We should not allow the farmers we should not allow the tribal peoples to burn the agricultural residue or the crop. So what should we do? What should they do? They should use them as the livestock feed, as the food items for their domesticated animals. Okay, they could convert all these crop residue to prepare the compost, which would, there are several plans by the Indian Agricultural Research Institute in New Delhi. They have built various small scale plants like this one in Haryana, and it was launched in 2010 and 11. And the unit at that particular time used to prepare around 4,000 tons of compost, and in subsequent year it was increased to around 5,000 tons. Energy source, we could use all this agricultural residue and to convert it to energy. Like this is an image of Kalpataru Power Transmission Limited in Ganganagar in Rajasthan. Okay, this plant actually uses 80,000 tons of biomass from the mustard crop, and they convert it to the 1.5 lakh of kilowatt hour of energy per day. So this much is the potential of that particular power transmission limited. Okay, we can think of the biofuel production. We can use the biomass, we can convert it to ethanol, and we can blend this ethanol with some gasoline, some lightweight gasolines, and we can use them as a fuel in combustion engine. And it has been shown that around 500 liter of biofuel can be produced by 1 ton of dry matter of biomass with a very high calorific value. It's 16 to 20 megajoule per kg. Okay. Biomethanation means a biomass such as from rice straw that can be converted into biogas, which is nothing but a mixture of carbon dioxide and methane, and that can be used as a fuel very well. And biogas of 300 meter cube with 55 to 60% of methane, that can be obtained, that can be produced with the help of 1 ton of dry rice straw. And this technology has been demonstrated already in the last year by Indian Agricultural Research Institute of New Delhi. It's a very good initiative. Gasification. The crop residue that can be used in the gasifiers for producer gas generation, and 1 ton of biomass that can produce 300 kilowatt hour of electricity. Okay. The Central Institute of Agricultural Engineering of Bhopal, they have developed a power plant which runs on this producer gas generated from the biomass. And lastly, the biochar production. Biochar is nothing but a high carbon material which is produced from the biomass through slow pyrolysis. I mean the heating without oxygen, pyrolysis of biomass, and it's a fine grained charcoal, and they can be potentially play a major role in the long term storage of carbon in soil. That is carbon sequestration and greenhouse gas mitigation. So this is an image of low cost pyrolysis kiln for preparation of biochar. It is in Haryana. Okay. So recently, I just want to introduce a program of Government of India. Last year, it was launched a National Clean Air Program or NCAP or Swachh Vayu Abhiyan, like Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and it was launched last year in the World Environment Day. I am there in the right hand corner from the third row from the top with the Honorable Minister of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So what is the aim? The aim is to find out the major sources of incorporated the studies to be conducted under this program. I have included the Sundarban Mangrove ecosystem too, to study whether these polluted atmosphere or the pollution plumes generated from the cities and the urban metropolis getting or impacting the Sundarban ecosystem. Well, it is a very well known and became familiar a few months ago, the Sundarban after Amphan in May 2020. And I personally visited there just a week after the Amphan, and I witnessed how the nature responds to the inappropriate behavior of the human, of the mankind. Okay, so I visited over there with my some of my colleagues and friends in order to provide some relief items, some food items to the victims, to the people over there of this community. And if you look closely at the pictures, you can see some papers. These are books and copies which are being laid down on the ground, and these books or copies are of a very young girl of 15 years old reading in class, studying in class 9, and her world is nothing but reading and reading and reading and to stand by her own feet. But she got seriously ill uh, due to this Amphan strike, and her parents left everything when this Amphan strike was going on, everything, and just uh, I can say that they devoted themselves to rescue, to save her daughter's property, these books and copies and everything. I mean, I have no words to explain all these situations. So we have tried to help them to the best of our capacities. We have tried to provide them some new books and copies, whatever. So I'm not showing all these events because of this publicity. Okay. What I want to say here that you, the students, the young generation, should come forward, should do something, should think by heart, from heart, should think of these people. Why? Because these people, they do not use ACs, they do not use vehicles, they hardly burn the fossil fuel. Okay, like I mean, the negligible in comparison to the people who are living in the urban luxuries like us. Okay, so they contribute least to the climate change, they contribute least to the global warming, but they suffered the most from the extreme events, they suffered the most from the flood, they suffered the most from the cyclones. So that's why we need to think of these people. We need to come forward to help them and their Sundarban ecosystem, the entire communities from our heart. So that's what I want to stop my talk. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. It was a really nice
Thank
talk
you.
and a very, very nice message. And are there any questions?
May I ask one or two questions?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah. So, so, so am I audible?
yes, sir.
Yeah, you
Yes,
are
sir. We can
audible, sir.
hear you.
Yeah. So first, I really thank Abhijit for giving wonderful lectures and
Thank you.
to educate me in this line of thinking. Fantastic. And I
Yes.
also should thank all the students for organizing this thing. Anyway, but my primary question,
Yeah.
just a layman question, because I'm getting a scope to be educated by you, that
Yes.
if to prevent the lensing effect of uh, aerosol covered with this uh, isoprene type of molecules,
Yeah.
so is it nice approach if we design a sprayer containing these volatile materials, preferably isoprene, in night in Calcutta, so that we can prevent the aerosol toxicity and simultaneously global or Calcutta's warming effect? So what is your opinion in that way?
So that
Because we can
means,
avoid the lensing effect.
yeah. So you want to, I mean, you want to artificially spray isoprene type of molecules in the
Yeah,
atmosphere of Kolkata, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely true. In night.
Uh, yeah, that's fine, but many reactions, atmospheric reactions or the natural reactions which are occurring in the atmosphere with isoprenes and other
Yeah,
inorganic species that are still unknown to us. I mean, I do not know what would be the other side effects or any collateral damage to some of the atmospheric components or climate would be there or not, I am not sure. But yes, we can go for a laboratory studies or chamber studies. We can adopt some chamber studies
Yeah,
method, mimicking the atmosphere, the mimicking the atmospheric conditions,
yeah.
artificially creating the atmospheric turbulence and other weather conditions, and then we can, yes, of course, we can go for some chambers. It's a nice proposal. I can think of it. Yeah,
No, no,
yes,
the purpose is that not to clean the whole environment, but the
yeah,
purpose to clean the house
right, right,
or the
right, right,
periphery,
right, right,
micro environment, micro conditions. That is
right,
the
right,
purpose.
right,
And
right, right.
my second question, Abhijit, that is, have you identified or anyone identified that any specific plant which is emitting highest amount of isoprene, so that government can encourage cultivation of that specific plant rather heterogeneous plants,
Hmm.
so that that will help, because that material which is emitted, the
Huh.
biomaterials which is
Huh.
encapsulating the aerosols, is there any specific plant having the highest capacity to emit such type of isoprene or volatile material?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, sir. I
Because
don't think so. There is any plan. I mean, I don't think so. There is any plan on them. I mean, what you want? I mean, you just want to. It's a. You are talking about some government plan or what?
no, no, actually I'm talking about that government will encourage the plantation, but
Okay.
to tackle this
Okay.
situation, because if we plant such type of specificity which will emit highest amount of these materials, that will be easy, rather than which is not having any capacity of emitting that thing. So that is the way, the purpose.
Sir, do you think that there would be some adverse effect on human health due to isoprene or something? Because I have no idea about the health effect of these kinds of.
Isoprenes are generally not that toxic.
Okay,
So
okay,
that's why I'm asking, or we can design such type of chemical formula so that
hmm.
it will be non-toxic, or co-synergistically application will nullify the
Okay,
toxicity,
okay, okay. I got you. I
but
got
it
you. Yeah, 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 yeah.
will so that is the way.
Hmm, 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 hmm. Okay,
Anyway, so
okay.
thanks. I can meet
Thank
you
you.
later on. So you
Okay,
should give
thank you.
answer to some other persons. Probably I'm not
Sure, sure.
wasting time. Okay.
No, no, no. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
okay.
Thank you, sir, for asking
Yeah.
such a nice question. So, from the audience, is there any other questions for Dr. Chatterjee?
I think no questions is there.
Okay, so if there are no questions, I would like to ask one question to you, sir.
Yeah, please.
Sir, in your page where you showed shifting
Hmm, hmm,
cultivation,
hmm,
there was a process of burning. So,
hmm.
is it just to clear the forest, or does it has an impact on the quality of the soil as well?
No, no. They actually grow crops, such crops which are not get affected, do not get affected by this burning process. Okay, they simply burn just to clear the forest, and the easiest and the fastest way. That's all. Okay.
Okay, okay, okay. So it does not harm the crops or
No, no,
the
no, no. Because
nutrition
the
of the
type of
soil.
crops they grow, they do not get harmed by this burning process.
And why do they need to shift places? Why can't they
Simply
utilize all
they
the
do not,
places?
because simply they do not want to wait for for I mean, when a grow after cutting all these crops, unless
Hmm.
you burn them, okay,
Hmm.
and clear the forest, you cannot go for growing some other crops, right? Okay, so that will kill
Yes.
around 3 or 4 months. So they do not wait. So they just
Yes.
go for, because it's a nothing but some the lack of educating them, okay, the
Hmm.
lack of
Hmm.
initiatives from the governments, of course, and if they get educated properly, If they get
Hmm.
award properly, they get them awards, they would definitely
Hmm.
stop it. If you would provide them a good alternate source of livelihood, why they do need
Yes.
to burn the forest and do all these things? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank
Okay
you, sir.
then. Okay. Thank you very
Any
much.
no more
Any
questions? I
questions?
think. Hmm. Anyone else, or else we'll end this seminar for today.
Okay then.
Okay, I think there are no other questions. So thank you once again, sir. It
Thank
was
you,
really
Shreya.
nice talk.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.